Thanks so much, Cara. And now we'll begin with news of this huge free trade deal between Europe and the US, because it's being described as being at risk. That's after the German economy minister admitted that talks have effectively failed. But what's at stake in all of this? Let me talk you through it. Well, TTIP, as it's called, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, is being negotiated between the European Union and the United States. And it's claimed that it could add hundreds of billions of dollars to the global economy. The argument goes that getting rid of trade barriers would provide an economic boost, create jobs, widen choice and lower prices for consumers for both the EU and the US. But it's highly controversial. TTIP has been criticised for potentially reducing regulatory barriers, diluting food safety laws, environmental legislation and banking rules. Well, let's talk live now to Jenny Hill, our Berlin correspondent, who's in the German capital for me. Jenny, these very strong words from the German Vice-Chancellor that TTIP has all but failed, but that no one's admitting it. But to what degree must his words be seen through the context of an upcoming national election in Germany?
I think probably to a very great degree. Interestingly, we've just heard actually from the Association of German Industry, who say they're amazed that such a statement would come from a country's economy minister. But you have to bear in mind that Mr. Gabriel is not merely the economy minister, he's not merely the vice-chancellor, he's also the leader of the Social Democrats, the junior partner in the governing coalition, and he's well aware that there is a general election coming up next year. He knows too that TTIP is very, very unpopular amongst the German public. Every so often tens of thousands of people take to the streets to protest against it. Here there's another big rally planned next week. He's trying to distinguish himself, I think, and his party from Angela Merkel's CDU, who are ostensibly in favour of TTIP. Mrs. Merkel has herself said that she wants this free trade agreement. So I think that whilst Mr. Gabriel is known to be very outspoken, he's good for a headline, I think that there is a great deal of unofficial electioneering going on here.
But the facts stand, don't they, Jenny? In 14 rounds of talks, neither side's agreed on a single common chapter out of 27. With the shock Brexit vote, the US has lost its key ally amongst the EU bloc. So where does this leave the trade deal?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Interestingly, I think when Barack Obama visited Germany earlier this year, he was at pains to point out that Germany was among one of its strongest allies, and that it was a real supporter of TTIP, and that he expected these negotiations to be concluded by the end of the year. I think there's a great deal of scepticism about that happening here in Germany. Of course, it's not up to Germany. It's certainly not up to Mr. Gabriel. What we do know is that Angela Merkel's spokesman has, a little earlier today, said it's right to keep negotiating. We know that on important questions there are differences of opinion between Europe and America, but we must keep on negotiating. OK, Jenny, many thanks. Jenny Hill there for us live in Berlin on the future of TTIP. Now, let's talk about these things behind me, drones, because we're always being told, aren't we, that the future of delivering everything from pizzas to parcels. And while the UK and Canada, they've sought to embrace the technology, the US has been, surprisingly, some might say, a little bit slower on the uptake. That could all be about to change, though, as America's Federal Aviation Administration rolls out a new set of regulations for the unmanned aircraft. The new rules, which come into force today, apply to commercial drones weighing less than 55 pounds or around 25 kilograms. The regulations says that the person flying the drone must have a remote pilot certificate or be directly supervised by someone with one. From now on, commercial drones will only be able to fly in daylight hours, and you can't fly one unless you have a direct line of sight to it. You also won't be allowed to take them higher than 400 feet, which is around the height of a 40-storey building. Well, with me now in the studio is Dave Black, Managing Director of Blackwing Aerial Services. Dave, really good to talk to you. So, do these new rules now mean that we're going to see many more drones taking to the American skies?
I believe so. This opening up of the marketplace, the lowering of the barriers, means that operators, not just big, expensive TV studios, but right down to individuals and operators, will be able to get out there and sell their wares as a drone operator.
So what would you identify as the major changes that have taken place today? They've lowered the barriers of entry, as you say, but what else?
Well, lowering the barriers of entry, going from being the licence that's required required. What's also very important is the need to inform the aviation authorities that you're going to fly. That removes the agility of an operator. You get weather, you get issues with filming. That disappears, and you can now price and go out and be much more agile with your customer.
But also that from today in the US, you can make money out of flying a drone.
Absolutely, and it's something we've had in the UK for quite a while. I say we've been quite forward on that. In terms of the financial aspects of it, as I say, for smaller operators, that's important. It's been an area that they've had struggled to regulate in the past. Things have appeared on YouTube, but also a large number of operators have just gone out and charged, irrespective of the rules. So that gives them a chance to now regulate that market.
Is it fair to say that the US has been behind the curve on all of this when compared with, say, the UK?
Well, I think what's important to understand is that the Civil Aviation Authority in the UK is a very forward-thinking regulator. They've had UAVs or drones in their sites for a number of years and brought in some regulation that went well beyond what was needed at the time. You could have just shut down the airspace. They allowed commercial operations to take place, and really what's happening in the US today is a mirror of what we've had already.
And Dave, where do you see the biggest areas of possibility for drone usage in terms of money? We're always being told about parcel delivery, for example. Is that where you see the future of drones?
I think TV and film is the big area, agriculture and survey work, and then obviously the delivery marketplace is an interesting one. Yes, it has a place to pay, but if you look at the marketplace of inside a large city, we have enough trouble flying drones without being on the ground. So I believe that will be a challenge for them.
OK, so it's not all about pizza delivery, as we've always been told then. Dave, really good to talk to you. Dave Black there, Managing Director of Black Ring Aerial Services.